this is a very small picture, a pictorial view of what I have personally analyzed and seen. I just don't want to talk a lot about on this slide, but very categorically, if you see, why system failures or why integration challenges and what happens when you do not, use it proactively and you don't utilize and maximize on what you have actually put in. This is the kind of conversations in the organization starts happening. So I think this is this is something which everyone can understand how the journey looks like for an organization that is setting themselves for a failure. So organization starts, with the fact that they want to adopt. The narrative is always about AI adoption, AI adoption, AI adoption. And once it starts kicking in, people do not use it. It does not then it does not become a question of whether the data is accurate, whether a model is hallucinating, whether model is drifting. It is all then becomes a backseat, but the entire objective is whether people are really using it or not. Because there's a lot of change in the workflow. There's a lot of change in the traditional way of operating, in the workflows, and that's where change management and program management becomes a very important thought in the organization for people to know why this is important and why we have already invested in this. So I think this is what I wanted to explain through this slide. If you can maybe Chetan move into the next slide, I would like to give everyone a clear path in terms of how a Adoptify really does it for the organizations and how we have done it for multiple organizations. The first question has always been, what is your use case? Because people bought a lot of things because they are in the zone of creating a narrative in the organization that we want to be AI first organization. We want to drive innovation through AI. We want to drive AI readiness through training our people. So there's a lot of pressure that goes from a CXO to a bottom line, but I would still say that there is no framework that needs to be positioned, and that's what we have realized over a period of time. The first thing that I would always see forward for is that what is your use case? Because the HR use case of AI in a manufacturing industry would be very different from a HR use case in an IT industry. So I think use case mapping become a very important tool, and that's where deployment and getting the foundations right is very important. Once that is done, then we move forward to activating people. As I rightly mentioned before as well, I'm not sure how many of you would agree with me, but if you can put it on the chat, I would be glad to see your responses. That the major problem of adoption is not just the infrastructure and the tools availability and the governance. It is actually the people who want to adopt it and they have to start using it. People are so much into ChatGPT that they feel that they should not be using ChatGPT. They should not be using Copilot because ChatGPT is very fast. It understands the context and all of that. But just to tell everyone, since we are very close to Microsoft, we work very in tandem with Microsoft people as well. And we have a lot of people working with us who are from Microsoft. We would like to tell you that Microsoft is now investing a lot of money to make Copilot independent of OpenAI. That's where the key would lie in, because you want to drive a sustainable business, you want to drive a sustainable systematic approach from adoption perspective. Your tool needs to be. So I'm just trying to tell everyone that at a very high level, tools are also activating themselves. They are also increasing and improving their efficacy and efficiency to drive adoption. So I think getting people started is not just change management. It has to be whether people are hands-on onto those tools or not. For being hands-on and measuring whether they are hands-on or not, that's where Adoptify comes into play, where we have partnered with multiple organizations, certification bodies. We have partnered with training companies, best training companies who can come train your employees, check the readiness through certification, and then they are ready to deploy and activate in that particular complete ecosystem of what we are working. Of course, when we deploy people, we do not want mass deployment because that can have a lot of problems at the end or at the back end, where your data leakage can happen. Anything and everything can happen, which can cause a lot of issues or damage to the organization from a branding perspective, from reputation perspective, or maybe from anything that is hazardous to the data integrity. So it's very important to go into the pilot phase, of course, which is very logical and no-brainer that people start with a pilot of 50 odd people, 100 odd people, and then they try to see whether this pilot, where they select the buyer persona, they select the user persona. I as I think there is one of the participants in the chat who has written that we are using we are using Copilot, or we are using tools to really reduce our load onto manual coding. I'm just assuming that you would be using Cursor AI, you would be using multiple tools to ensure that coding does not become now a job for people, because a lot of companies have now told that coding is no more going to be a real job. It is just going to be a plug and play model. So with that, what I wanted to say is that, of course, we start with a pilot. We start with our packages also that we have defined for the or for our users are in tandem to pilots, that you can start small, you see the result, and then you scale. Right, that's where then, after you have some understanding on your use case, whether people adoption, AI data adoption, infrastructure availability is all in sync, and then you see that there is a result coming out, there is a 17%, 18%, 20% productivity increase in your productivity, and that's where you then put into scale. Now, when you put everything into scale, and that's where it becomes a little more challenging for everyone. Now, why we say that is because when you are doing a pilot, you might be thinking about having a very small cohort of people who are best in their jobs. So you know that if you put this to a best set of people, the benchmark would be the best. Then you try to, of course, put it to the set of people who are maybe not very good with it, maybe very good with it, and then your average benchmark becomes a little lower. And that's where your adoption and your scale comes, and adoption framework comes in play. And that's where, Chintan, when you will be talking, I think Chintan is the CTO of our company. He has deep expertise in AI and blockchain. These are the two emerging technologies. He has built systems from scratch with us. He would be the right person to tell how adoption framework works. And in multiple organizations, when we have dealt with those organizations, we have seen that, the breakdown is not because of the pilot is not working or the pilot has worked. The breakdown is because there is no right adoption framework. So I think that's the key that we have developed, and that's the black box that we have developed for our clients, so that you just get to know that this is what you put into the black box, and the output is just the productivity. If I talk about optimization, of course, optimization is a series of optimization is a part of the complete process right now. Because when we talk about optimization, it clearly means that you are doing something in the right direction, and you're not doing something which needs right direction, and you keep on improving, you keep on checking the engagement rates, you keep on encashing the right value, and you keep on what is working out, you keep on scaling that. I think that's one of the very granular way of saying it, that oversimplifying, I am oversimplifying by saying this. But again, optimization in any channel is going to increase the efficiency of the system. It will also help us not to have, higher turnaround time for things to react. So it'll optimization and being proactive through this series of optimization is going to be the key success factor. So these are the five major aspects that I really wanted to talk about, because the baseline of what we do at Adoptify is this. So that's pretty much that I wanted to talk about. I think, Chintan, if you go on to the next slide, I would be able to maybe you would be able to talk about the technicalities in terms of where they are, what happens next, what are the risks if you rush through these problems. I think that five stages that we have developed in our organizations for our customers will help them understand and relate better. Over to you, Chintan. I think you are cracking. Your voice is cracking. Pooja, can you check if it's my voice or Chintan's voice, because I'm not able to hear Chintan.
No, I think Chintan is facing some network issues.
Is it better now?
Okay, it's better. It's better. Now I can hear you.
Sorry, guys, there's some issue with the connection. Okay. All right. So organizations have, like everybody is investing in AI first. So there is no question that will there be an investment in AI? The answer is yes. Now, what you are investing in AI is not directly proportional to the ROI that you will plan, right? And that's where the system is extremely important for any of the AI tool that you are deploying, including the Microsoft Copilot.